be up in the, maybe in the low hundreds already.
Give it just a couple more minutes and then I think we can probably get started.
Okay.
Just want to make sure we give any latecomers a chance.
Yep.
Okie dokie. I think if you want to go ahead and get started, Sarah, that'd
Okay.
it's about
Great.
time. Yeah.
Well, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us this afternoon on your lunch hour. If you are in Mountain Standard Time, feel free to go ahead and eat your lunch. You can put your camera on or off. I know a lot of people maybe prefer to have their cameras off, but I would like to invite everybody who would like to introduce yourself over the chat. Just let us know who you are. If you have any relevant sustainability affiliation, or if you want to share what brought you here today or your connection with the URA, feel free to do that. We'd love to know who really, a lot of times I feel like I'm preaching to the choir here. So I'm looking forward. I'm really hoping that this is kind of just a platform where we can all share our experiences, our successes, our failures, because we've all had a little bit of both, and so it's nice to be able to share those together and become stronger together. So introduction to the Utah Recycling Alliance. My name is Sarah Bateman, and I'm currently serving as co-president with David Johnston. And I've been a member of the board since fall of 2016. So I'm in my 5th year serving on the board, and I've been really enjoying the opportunities to learn here. And so we normally have a lot of in-person programs that obviously we've had to suspend this past year. And so we launched the Trash Talk series so that we could continue to address the issues surrounding waste and build up this community who is really dedicated to try to reduce waste here. And so I just want to let you know the next Trash Talk is scheduled for Tuesday, January 26th at 5 p.m. And that is about the current state of food waste. So food waste is huge. So if that's an interest of yours, or maybe you've been kind of curious about it, I really recommend tuning into that. So with that, again, feel free to use the chat function. I see nobody has introduced themselves on the chat. Come on, people, let's do this. Oh, there's one, yeah. Yeah, I really want this to be kind of a casual environment, as if we were sitting down over lunch together and just chatting about this shared interest that we have. So I will go ahead and share my screen. Oops. And do just a quick commercial for oh, there we go. For our latest project that we just launched a few weeks ago at the end of 2020. This next year marks our 10th anniversary, the Utah Recycling Alliance. And so we wanted to do a special project, and if you stay on later, we will show you a video that explains a little bit more about this. This is just kind of a little teaser about it. So stay tuned for that, because this is a crowdsource. We'd love to have your input and involvement in this film. So introduction, I said my name is Sarah Bateman, and a couple other of the hats that I wear. I work with the City of Orem with the Natural Resources Stewardship Committee, and also almost 2 years ago formed the Utah County Sustainability Coalition. I'm here in Orem, so trying to work on building up some sustainability presence in Utah County. Salt Lake County is pretty strong, and so we're encouraged by a lot of the work that they're doing up there, and see a lot of great things that are happening down in Utah County, and so we're working to build that up. But kind of the backstory, my personal backstory, when I try to think about, where my interest in low waste came, I think about two experiences when I was younger. My mom sent me to camp when I was a kid and when I was a teenager, and I really enjoyed the nature and the outdoors and the forests and the lakes and the beauty that was there. And then my dad, I remember a trip that he took me to the dump and seeing, I don't know if you've had a chance to go to a dump or something similar, a transfer station, and see the mountains of waste there. It's pretty discouraging. And so kind of combining those two experiences, I found myself, carving out a little niche for myself here, and working to promote lower waste solutions within my community. So about 10 years ago, I started writing a blog. I didn't really promote it. I wasn't a blogger. It was just kind of a place where I would write about what apparently was a little bit unusual lifestyle. I thought it was normal, but maybe you're in that same category where everybody else thinks that the choices you make or the lifestyle that you live is a little bit odd, and that's okay. There's a place for that. So I just kind of wrote some things down. I haven't been as active on it lately, but but I do have a history. You're welcome to go take a look at that. And yeah, so that's a little bit of background of how I got where I am right now. Now, obviously with the Utah Recycling Alliance, recycling is, you know, the R that we have traditionally entered in, but we have expanded to really address all aspects, you know, all the R's, you know, the traditional reduce, reuse, recycle, but also the additional R's that have kind of popped up over in recent years. And so that's something that we really are interested in, looking at all the different ways that we can just reduce how much waste we're producing or think about it creatively. So I'm going to walk through some of those R's, and so I'm starting with recycling because recycling really is kind of the gateway drug for most people. It's the easiest, kind of wide scale. We're accustomed, most communities around here have single stream blue bins. Where I am, I don't know what color bins where you are, but municipal programs where we can just kind of throw all of our stuff and it magically gets recycled, and we're doing our part to save the world. And so that has made it really easy for a lot of people to at least start thinking about their waste. Unfortunately, a lot of times we stop there and we think, okay, I'm doing my part. But if you've been involved in kind of the zero waste or low waste movement or interest, you know that that's not really the solution to get us where we really want to go. Now, when I use the phrase zero waste, really it's aspirational. I'm not talking about, we are not a zero waste home, but really it's this, you know, what's the vision, what's the goal, and how can, you know, what are the different tools that we have to try to get us there. So this presentation, I kind of reworked for this that I've used before when addressing kind of a larger audience, or a broader audience anyway, that might not initially have as much knowledge that I'm guessing you have. But these are some of the local resources that I found as far as going beyond the blue bin. So obviously the first thing, participate in your curbside recycling bin program. And then other options that take a little bit more effort for us because they might not be as easy. I think there's in some places in Salt Lake County or Salt Lake City where they do have curbside glass pickup, which makes that really convenient. Here in Orem, I just save up my glass and then I do a trip down to the Public Works building in the parking lot. There's a big dumpster that we put the glass in, and that's open to the public to use. Not all communities have that option. So if you are in a community along the Wasatch Front, at least, that doesn't currently have close access to a drop-off bin, talk to your city government, city managers, and see if that's something that that they could do and contract to get that for your community. And then another resource that I've used is Recycle Utah, which is in Park City. I kind of call it the mecca of recycling or whatever. They have a lot of unusual recycling opportunities. And so I've used them many times. I'll put the kids in the car and we'll make a trip up to Park City and enjoy the drive or enjoy the surroundings up there and make a day of it and take our unusual recyclables, including one of my favorites over here, the fat bat. So I do save up any kind of food fat, and I can add that there. I am going to stop sharing for just a second, and And just take a look. If anybody does anybody have like something that they want to share about recycling? We'll move on to the other R's as well and give you a chance to kind of share your experience with the other R's. But when it comes to recycling, anything that anybody wants to chime in on, successes or frustrations or whatever, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Seriously, you want us to just unmute and start talking?
Yes, I'm kind of casual. I know I don't have the facility right now to, well, because I don't want everybody to feel like they're not participating. I want this to be a discussion. So
okay, because we could do the little thing where we raise our little hand and you could call on us. But
well, if you get to be an unruly crowd, then I'll make you raise your hand like in school.
okay, so I put it in the chat that I really did get spoiled when I was living in Salt Lake City, because I happened to work at a place that had a glass drop off in the parking lot. And even if I only had one bottle, I would just throw it in my car, take it to work, you know, be done with it. And it kind of opened the way, because I was living in a condo where we just had one giant dumpster. But, you know, you start being aware that there were places to drop off almost everything. Like, here's your electronics, they go there, your cardboard goes over here, your glass is there. And popping around Salt Lake, it was easy to just drop things off. And then now I live near Brigham City, where food waste is good. I have people who, you know, have chickens in their backyard and they will let me just dump whatever food waste I have. So at least I'm not doing that. But the rest of it, I've thrown glass in the back of my car. Eventually I'll make a trip to Salt Lake and drop it off, but there's got to be something better. That's all. Bye.
Yeah, and that's why we come together, to kind of like commiserate and maybe try to share ideas about, maybe somebody has a tip, or maybe there is somebody who knows somebody in government that might be amenable to exploring, developing those options. But I know that there are a lot of challenges with infrastructure in some areas, and we do get spoiled with what we know, and yeah, it does take some effort a lot of times. So. All right, I will return to.
Sarah, it does look like we're getting some comments in the chat window. I'm going to try.
Okay, can you check those out and go ahead and facilitate that?
Absolutely. I just caught on, so give me a sec.
Thanks.
Someone was asking what happens with the fat up at the fat vat up at Recycle Utah. I don't know. Are you familiar with what they do?
I think it gets turned into biofuel. So like biodiesel.
Okay, and what sorts of fats do they accept? Is it pretty much all cooking?
All cooking fats. So that includes like any vegetable oils, but it also includes like bacon grease. But obviously no like motor oil or anything like that, but anything that is food-based oil or fat.
I know I saved my bacon grease for a while and I'll put it in a mason jar in the fridge, but at some point I sort of question when it's okay to use it. You know what I mean? And when it's gone.
So my recommendation, though, I've learned with the bacon fat is don't go in the winter time, because it congeals and it's really hard to, you know, get it out.
It congeals in the car is what you're saying, or on the way out?
Yeah, warm it up and then you can dump it in. Hot tip.
It's Nina was mentioning a zero waste book club that they've been hosting.
Oh, cool.
On
Is that
Facebook.
something that's open to everybody?
Well, it's Salt Lake City Zero Waste Facebook community.
Oh, great.
Years ago, and she said they've been doing a book club in 2020 and they're continuing it in 2021. And Nina, is that book club just called SLC Zero Waste? Is that it?
No, the book club is just a zero waste book club. We didn't do it specific for just the Utah community because we want to have it open for everybody. Last year, it was mainly just geared toward everybody in that community, which is about 600 people.
Wow.
And we read 6 books, which is very interesting and very broadly. And we're going to pull it into the new year. We already started with one of relational mindfulness that's talking about sustainability and from a very different perspective, starting off the year a little gentler. But we have shared the information about it on in our group and on Instagram, so it's easy to find in Zero Waste Book Club.
Very
But
cool.
we can definitely share our choices, and then we do virtual discussions.
That's fantastic. Yeah. I'm definitely looking that up.
Same, I made a note right now.
Yeah.
Someone was saying that they're struggling a little bit with knowing what's going on or what's going into blue bins, into their recycling bins. And what I always tell folks, I work for Salt Lake City in a waste and recycling role as permits coordinator for the city. And what I like to remind people is the best way to figure out what goes in the blue bins is, first of all, check and see if you know who is hauling your bins. If it is your city that's hauling your bins, you can go onto their website or find a number, give them a call. If you are, for instance, working with a business who contracts with a private hauler that hauls recycling, you're going to want to check not with your city where that business is located, but with that specific hauler. Occasionally, for instance, if there's a hauler like Ace Disposal who operates, or Waste Management who operates here in Salt Lake City, typically they're right in line with what Salt Lake City is accepting for recycling from residents, but occasionally it slightly differs. So you always want to go to that source, whatever is that most immediate connection.
Thank you.
And Brian also mentioned, wondering if there's a self-sort option. I'm not sure. I'm sorry. I don't know. You mentioned PC, Brian. I don't quite know what that is.
Park City?
What's that?
Park City?
Park City. Yeah, sorry. In Salt Lake City, we do not have as good of a self-sort recycling option. That is true. There are recycling bins available just before you get out to the landfill. The landfill here in the city is out on California Avenue at 6030 West California, for those of you that are unfamiliar. And it's not a lot of options, but there are some options for self-service recycling. Usually there's a paper and cardboard bin out there. There is a plastics bin, and there is a aluminum bin or a metal bin for other scrap metals. So at a minimum, you can be taking those out there. I know the west side of Salt Lake City is not convenient for everyone, but it is a resource out there. And in the past, there's also been a self-service recycling station a little bit further south at Salt Lake City's transfer station. Right now, unfortunately, it sounds like those bins are not there. They've had historically issues with contamination, and if contamination spikes in those bins, they will remove them or block people from accessing them. And I heard just a couple weeks back that apparently they are inaccessible. But those are down at, I'll look up the address real quick and type into the chat. I have to double check. It's down towards 3200 South, I believe, and not too far to the west. But I will look up that address right now and type it into the chat. And they should have a number for the Salt Lake City transfer station that you can call up and see if those bins are available. I will find that as well and put it in the chat.
Thank you, David.
Yeah,
Yeah, you'll likely hear a lot of the phrase wish cycling these days, and that's something that the recycling industry, especially now, because there are some challenges within the industry that they're trying to battle this idea that they're calling wish cycling, where people think oh, well, this should be recyclable, so I'll just put it in the recycle bin and it'll get all sorted out. When in reality, that can sometimes and often contaminate the rest of the recyclables. And then it doesn't get recycled, and other stuff that normally would be recyclable can't get recycled because of the contamination. So that I know is frustrating for a lot of people. And so they've been really trying to focus on just like there's a campaign for the top 10 in the bin, and to just try to help people focus on kind of core items that for sure are easily recyclable, and holding off on some of those other items that we think should be recyclable but maybe aren't. So something to think about when it comes to recycling.
And I'll briefly follow up on that. I think one of the critiques that I hear a lot about recycling is people that say, well, you know, only half of what gets recycled actually, or of what the recycling centers get is actually being recycled. How efficient of a system can that be? The reason half of what they get is being recycled oftentimes is because of the contaminants that are put in the bins in the first place. So we really, as residents in our cities, I think have to take it on ourselves to some extent to be sure that what we're recycling is truly recyclable, because otherwise they're just going to be taking it out at the recycling facility, putting it in a truck and sending it to the dump. And in a lot of cases, there are things that are put in those bins that might contaminate otherwise clean recyclables as well, especially things like liquids. If you're, you know, getting a plastic cup, whether it's at you know, Starbucks or somewhere else, you're drinking 3/4 of it, and then you're throwing that cup with the rest of the liquid in the bin. Once all that gets mixed up in a truck together and compound that with other people that might be doing the same things, all that liquid becomes potentially damaging to the clean recyclables that are in there. If something like cardboard or paper, you know, soaks up a bunch of soda pop or something, it may end up being dumped as garbage. So just things to keep in mind.
Yep. All right, we are going to move on to the next few other R's here. Here we go. What am I doing that? All right, here we go. So reuse, that's part of the original R's, reduce, reuse, recycle. But there are some new R's in the modern era that have been added to really think about all the other ways that we can reduce what we're using. So reuse, here I've included a picture of a picnic that, you know, when we go picnicking with the family, we bring reusable dishes, real cutlery, you know, reusable cups, and cloth napkins. It's just become a standard part of our family culture, and then when we come home, we wash and put away instead of throwing everything away. That's a way. So really, the single-use items, that's a great start when it comes to reuse. The cups, the napkins, bringing your own to-go box. If you're going to a restaurant, go ahead and just bring your own small container, and then you can put your leftovers in that and then reuse that. Also, secondhand shopping. I normally don't like conventional shopping. It really stresses me out, to be honest. But going shopping at a thrift store is kind of like this fun challenge and treasure hunt, and it's guilt-free shopping. And so it's fun to also explore that with my kids, who also enjoy finding most of my clothes, I would say, a majority of my clothes are from thrift stores, and I'm perfectly satisfied with that experience. So these are some things I put down at the bottom. Free swap, that's a community event that I host here in Orem a couple times a year under normal circumstances, where it's like a pop-up thrift store, but everything is free. So people can donate and people can shop for free, and it's a lot of fun. Repair, also, this is another program that the Utah Recycling Alliance normally hosts fix-it clinics. We've been doing that for a few years now, and it's really great to see how empowered people can get as they come in and they're paired with a repair coach, whether that's sewing or electronics or carpentry, and the coach kind of helps them, you know, assess the problem, maybe take the electronics apart and walk you through how the different components work, and try to identify what's wrong, if it's a loose wire, or help you figure out how to sew up a seam. And so that, I mean, this is pioneer stuff, right? And so I look forward to when we can start doing those in-person fix-it clinics again. So be on the lookout for those. And then rot, an R word for composting. So I don't know if you have the opportunity to compost at home. I know that there are some communities around the country that offer curbside compost services as well. We don't have that here, but that's an exciting opportunity to make that, you know, food waste solutions more broadly available in all communities. So hopefully we can incorporate that a little bit more. Or if you have a little patch of ground, you can start a compost bin, and then you can work that, you know, it's Mother Nature's recycling system, taking what is no longer needed and breaking it down, and now it feeds new plants. So do we have any comments, any experiences, any, you know, any hot tips on reuse, repair, and rot? Oh, I see there are some places in Salt Lake City that take food waste. That's awesome. Okay, so a note for the Salt Lake City Farmers Market, wishing that there could be an opportunity to drop off compost. Maybe that's something that the organizers could work towards. Okay. Then see if it'll let me. What's it doing? Y'all are so quiet. Is anybody having good lunch right now?
I'm having a good lunch. I
Do
just
tell.
in on, well, it's not that exciting. I've got a green smoothie that I made, but on refuse, kind of outside of the COVID bubble, the biggest pushback I got when requesting to bring my own container or fill my own bags was health codes. And I've searched the Salt Lake County health codes and can't really find anything. What do you recommend for further resources on this?
You know, I found that too, and it just, I haven't looked into the health codes per se, but I have had experiences where sometimes I go to the store when I use my own bags, and I haven't had a problem, but on more than one occasion, I've had people come up and say, hey, you're not allowed to use that, it's unsanitary. And so that's kind of awkward, but for me, I kind of figure, I mean, you're talking about like the bulk bins where like you go to the store and ultimately it's we kind of have this accepted risk, because a lot of these bins are things that, you know, kids could come in or anybody could come in and reach their hand and touch any of the dry goods, right? But we kind of have like this public compact with each other that we're going to use these in good faith, and we're going to try to be as clean and safe as possible, but it's not a completely sterile environment. And so, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I try to make it a little bit more acceptable or common, but it's not. And so you know, a lot of people are upset by it. So maybe I just try to go when no employees are in that section of the store and go through the self-checkout. I don't know, but that's a good question, you know. Okay. So now I'm going to, this is weird. The slideshow is weird. That's all right. Bear with me. Okay, so now rethink. This is one of my favorites because it really just is so expansive and requires us to get creative and really think about all the items in our world a little differently. And so I've included some examples here. The gift giving at our house several years ago, we changed how we wrap our gifts. You know, we just finished Christmas, and so we use items around the house, whether it's like a scarf or a pashmina or a shirt with, you know, a belt or a tie as like the decoration. The kids have a great time. They think it's hilarious. They'll like wrap it in blanket after blanket after blanket and, you know, tie it around. They think they're so funny. And we have a great time. It becomes like kind of an experience to see the different creative ways that we have wrapped our gifts for each other. So the picture that I've included here, this is a book that's wrapped in a girl's dress. So that's like the little rosette is made out of like kind of the tulle underskirt, and then it's wrapped around with the belt. So there are a lot of ways that we can get creative. And the other nice thing that I found with Christmas morning unwrapping our gifts to each other is how quiet it is. It's just so much more peaceful. I hadn't thought about that initially, but I really do enjoy the quiet. A lot of times the gifts we give to each other are like food, snacks, whatever, or something that we needed anyway, a pair of socks or whatever. And obviously, when you're, you know, thinking about giving gifts, experience gifts really go a long way. They can't get broken or lost. Those experiences last and last and are really enriching. So definitely consider those when you're rethinking stuff. The second picture is a picture of me. I went on a trip and I was gonna try to see how I could bring versatile clothing. So I have like this pashmina scarf. And I was gonna try to see all the different ways that I could use this scarf. And on that trip, I used it as a skirt, as a top, as shown here, as rolled up as like a neck pillow, as a blanket, as like, you know, a beach towel or something. Anyway, all these different ways. If you're, I also, if you're going to religious sites or whatever, visiting a mosque or something like that, and you need something to cover your head for women, then you're already prepared for your trip. So with just a few items. So that was kind of a fun challenge to see all the different ways that I could use this one item. And then upcycling, we do a lot with that. There are a lot of artisans who are really creative with what would otherwise be considered waste. So these earrings were made by Jen Lopez over at Clever Octopus. And those are bottoms of aluminum cans. So like soda cans, where it's like concave. Anyway, so clipped out and made into earrings. So it's really creative. There are a lot of artistic folks out there. And then I included this picture of a quilt. Now that quilt was made with brand new fabric, but the concept of this pioneer invention where, let's, take an item and how can we rework it to be a new item, and continue to think creatively about the things that we have in our world. So I will stop sharing for a bit, and anybody want to share their fun rethink experiences? I know you guys are creative. Come on.
I put this in the chat too, but one summer I tried just wearing the same jumpsuit every single day for the whole summer. And it was awesome because I learned, like, I do not need as many clothes as I had. Like, my laundry impact went down so much, and it was just so simple and freeing to not have to worry about what I'm gonna wear today. I just had my one really versatile jumpsuit that worked great.
Yeah, I've thought that too. Like, whenever I see like men's business wear and women's business wear, I'm like, men could really just put on the same suit and like change a tie and it would be fine. But women have to like wear something different every day. And so like taking that on and challenging that and seeing that, yeah, not a big deal. So that's interesting. I hadn't heard about that. Anybody else?
I'll just add that even before our family switched away from using wrapping paper, for many, many years, I'm sitting here in the dark, for many, many years, we had wrapping paper and we would just reuse it year after year after year. And so as soon as a kid was older than a toddler and ripping things apart, we learned, nope, you carefully open it. Look, just peel the tape back or use your thumbnail or whatever. And so it slowed down the whole frenzy of gift opening. And it was kind of fun because you would see the same wrapping paper year after year and be like, oh, I remember when I used that to wrap so-and-so's birthday gift, or this was the Christmas that I got this, or whatever it was. And we had a big box of, when it was all done, we just folded it all up nicely and put it in the box, and up in the attic it went. And I thought that that was perfectly normal until I realized that friends just ripped things open. But it was a really cool thing. And that wrapping paper lasted for years and years and years and years and years. So
yeah,
don't
exactly.
throw it away just because you're converting to using something else.
Mm-hmm. We are so accustomed. It's such a disposable culture these days. And so kind of reclaiming, it's both forward thinking and backward thinking, strangely, to reuse and get creative with what we have, instead of just continuing this cycle of throwing things away and making new. So
right. And that was my Depression era parents
uh-huh.
who wouldn't have done it any other way.
Exactly.
It's good too, because you learn things don't have to be perfect aesthetically. It's like, I don't care if that paper already has a crease in it or the bow is a little bit squashed. It's like, it's still, here's the gift.
It has a story. Yeah. I don't know if you're familiar with, and I should have looked this up first. It's a Japanese tradition of repairing items where, like, let's say it's a ceramic item that has broken, and then they repair it and they fill it with like gold filling or something like that, or something really pretty where it kind of accentuates the broken seam, but identifying that, kind of embracing this imperfection and celebrating that. And so I think that is freeing when we can get to a point where we don't always have to have picture perfect everything.
I love that idea.
So yeah.
So you're talking about kintsugi, that repair. Have you found any classes? Because we actually, we broke one of my partner's Christmas mugs the second it came home.
Oh, no.
And wanted to repair it.
I don't. I wonder if there are some local classes that might do that. You have those niche classes, maybe in community continuing education with various colleges in the area. So I wonder if there might be something because that would be really interesting. Yeah, good question. Okay. Here we go. Okay, the next one. Let me share my screen. Okay, so I keep doing this so weird. All right, whoops, spoilers. Okay, food, the choices and waste. So this is huge. Like we said earlier, the next trash talk will be about food waste. Now, if we're talking about global emissions, if food waste were a country, it would be the 3rd largest emitter of greenhouse gases. So this is a huge area where we can kind of focus on. And so this was just kind of something I put together on, you know, things that I'm trying to do. Now, I am not perfect at reducing food waste, but it's something that I keep trying to work on. One of the things that I enjoy in trying to tackle food waste is trying to explore some creativity in the kitchen. Sometimes it's successful, sometimes it's not, but you know, that's part of life, and it's just reinforcing that you are trying to be committed to reducing food waste, even if we're not perfect at it. So yeah, so food, buy local, reduce your meat consumption, increase vegetables consumption, get inspiration from other cuisines, cook at home more, eat plant-based once more a week, embrace the slow food movement, plan meals around expiring foods, and yeah, that creativity. And then the tools that we might have in the kitchen, the freezer, the blender, using smaller plates or something like that instead of like a large dinner plate. Maybe your dinner plate is now a salad plate so that you can still feel that abundance on your plate. And if you finish that and you want some more, you can get some more, but instead of like filling out this much larger plate and then realizing, okay, I wasn't really in the mood to eat all of that, and now I have this waste. So so kind of downsize your dishes, and then again, if you want more, you can have some more, but build up to it. So yeah, the gallon water jugs in the refrigerator. This is something that I did a few years back. We got a new refrigerator, and I didn't want to get a giant refrigerator. I wanted a smaller refrigerator, and I wanted a counter depth refrigerator because I'm guessing this has probably happened to you as well, where you open your fridge and you reach into the back dark recesses of your fridge, and who knows how long that, you know, mystery item has been there, because you couldn't see it because it was just too far back. And so when they started using the counter depth refrigerators so that you could see your items easier and be able to reach them, so I wanted a counter depth refrigerator, but a smaller size one, and they didn't make that. So I just had to get a smaller refrigerator, like, you know, more standard size instead of the really large ones. But I wanted it to feel counter depth. So what I did was I filled like 5-gallon water jugs, and I laid them down on their sides and the back, and created kind of this false back wall in the refrigerator, so that now essentially it is counter depth and I can see more of my items, and they're less likely to get lost and less likely to get wasted. So that's something that I found works for me to help me be able to see all the things that are in the refrigerator. Obviously, you probably have a jar collection as well. We use lunch thermoses, reusable lunch containers, cloth napkins, you know, reusable cutlery. And then obviously food and our eating traditions are really wrapped up with the people. You know, food is a celebration. It's community. It's therapy. It's so much a part of our culture, and how we connect with other people over food. And research that, again, as listed here, the research that links frequent family meals with less risky behavior among and depression among youth and better grades. No screens when dining with others. Make sure you try to have those conversations. And that, yeah, the research that points to communal meals aiding in trust and cooperation with people that might have different perspectives, which I don't know, maybe Thanksgiving dinner disproves that. But anyway, so really connecting with other people over food is something that's very satisfying, and it makes the food experience more satisfying when we share that with others. So anybody have tips or thoughts they want to share about food waste? Or yeah, yes, Nina.
Okay, here I am. I had to unmute. I do think that the past year, as difficult as it was, and even this year will be a great chance to actually work on this, because we're home more and there's so many opportunities. Before 2020, I never ate. I always ate in if I went to a restaurant and things like this, because taking food on the run kind of stresses me out, and the whole like unnecessary waste that comes with it, I was never for it. So for me, it was like, I'm in an area where it's really difficult to get food that works with my diet. So I'm like, okay, I guess I won't be eating out in 2020 either, and probably not 2021. But it meant that I had to cook all of my food at home, all of the food. But it showed me that there's things like, I made my husband run all over creation in Salt Lake City to find vegan wonton wrappers, when it's so easy to make them at home and have literally created no waste. And it goes with a lot of other things too, that I'm like, that doesn't need to come from a store, because I can make it. And clearly it's not possible for everything, because we're not domestic goddesses like trying to slave in the kitchen all day long. We have other things to do. But there's a lot of rethinking. For me in 2020, I am really trying to get, in terms of food waste, why is it so difficult for me as an adult to meal plan? It shouldn't be so hard. It shouldn't be so hard that I can only make it 5 days, and then I'm like, I still plan for day 6 and 7, but I no longer want to eat that. Like, as an adult, I should figure this out, and it would make huge leaps and bounds in terms of food waste, to have some discipline.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I have had periods, you know, of my life where I've been able to make more at home, and that kind of ebbs and flows, and I imagine that's the case for everybody. But like finding maybe one thing where it's like, okay, I'm going to work on this one thing. Maybe I can't do everything right now, which we can't. So stop thinking that you can, and focus on, you know, I'm going to try to work on this one thing and get better at it. So, all right. Whoops. So we are coming up near the end. I'm going to so the last couple of R's, refuse and reduce. This is the simplest, cheapest, but probably hardest thing to do, is to want less. Our culture is very connected to consumption, and it's hard to escape that. And I'm not suggesting want nothing, but we can probably identify some areas where it's like, yeah, I could probably pull back on that, or rethink that, or you know, focus on experiences here, or repair. So I included some pictures of things that I enjoy doing with my family, as far as getting out in nature and exploring and trying to connect with with the natural world and with others. I think that really helps keep us grounded and reminds us why we continue to do the things that we're trying to do. Obviously, you've probably heard this phrase many times, vote with your dollar. And then, and then of course, we experience this all the time. I just kind of kept writing all the things that came to mind. This is not really organized, but this is probably how we feel a lot. We probably experience some or maybe even all of this to some degree, especially right now. And that's okay. Like, it really is. We need to, if we trip over our own perfectionism, then it's gonna be hard to have the optimism to keep going on. So acknowledge that maybe things aren't great in this area of my life right now when it comes to zero waste, but keeping that zero waste ideal in the back of your mind and finding that one thing that, yes, I have the energy to focus on this and I can do this. And then focus on that. And then you'll get good at it. And then you'll find something else that you're ready to take on. And that's how we have that kind of sustainable progress in this field. So celebrating those wins when you got them. And then, okay. Does anybody have, yeah, when you know better, you do better, yeah. I have one more thing to kind of wrap up, but if anybody has last comment or anything that they wanted to share real quick, feel free to do that. Otherwise,
sorry, I am about to enter in the transfer station location. Again, this is where in the past people have been able to take their recyclables. Currently, it is not open as far as I'm aware. I will double check on that for you all, but you should be able to find a number as well, or call Salt Lake City. You would call Salt Lake City's main recycling number. They should be able to update you as well, whether it is open currently or not. Again, I don't think it is, unfortunately, but something to keep in mind for the future. Hopefully they will be bringing back those bins.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
I am also going to put in the link, the Google form, or in the chat, the Google form for the Zero Waste Future film project that we just launched. And I'm going to try to see if I can make the video play. I don't know if it will, but I'm going to try. So let's see. Whoops. Could you hear that? Could you hear the video?
We were not hearing it, no.
Oh.
You may just have to send it as a YouTube link. That might be better.
I will send it out as the YouTube link. Whoops. So there is well, also on the Google form, the link that I just sent out, it includes the video, but I will put the link to the video introducing the project that would really love you to participate in. Sorry, I couldn't figure out how to make that work, but please do check out the video and think of ways that you might like to participate and send in a video clip of how you are trying to work towards zero waste. We'd like to get all kinds of submissions, individuals, groups, whatever, work groups, student groups, and all kinds of creative ways that you are trying to work towards zero waste. So check that out and see if that's something that you want to participate in. We're already starting to have some submissions sent in, so we're excited about that. And yeah, okay. So are there any last questions before we go? I hope this was worth your time this afternoon. Thank you for stopping by and for sharing your ideas. And I look forward to actually going back and being able to read the chat that was going on. Thank you for participating that way. And it's always exciting to know and connect with other people who are just as weird as you are. And we're not alone in this fun journey. And we look forward to continuing this this zero waste journey together. So thank you for coming.
Thank you, everyone. And thanks, Sarah.
Thanks, David.